to ignite and nurture creative, ethical, scientific minds that advance the human condition. Welcome to the Atlas of Knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Atlas of Knowledge. I'm Gabby.
And I'm Janelle. Today we'll be taking you on a journey through the brain. You'll learn about the different parts and their basic functions.
Let's get into it.
You have three main parts of your brain: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. The brainstem is kind of like the flower stem. It connects your brain to your spinal cord to get signals and messages from all over your body, just like the flower would get from its roots.
Your cerebellum, on the other hand, is in the back of your head, and its job is to help those signals get to the rest of your brain. Most of its functions are ones you don't even consciously think about, like maintaining balance or your posture.
Then we have the third section, your cerebrum. This is the largest part of your brain. To think about the parts of the brain, we're going to take this orange, for example. There's a peel on the outside holding in even more stuff on the inside. The peel of your cerebrum is called the cerebral cortex. Cortex is Latin for bark, like bark on a tree. So your cerebral cortex is like the peel of your brain. Make sure you don't take it off, though.
The cerebral cortex is divided into many different parts. The first division we make is right down the middle. We call these two halves of the brain hemispheres. So you have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere.
Two halves communicate to each other through a large C-shaped structure called the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is in the center of the cerebrum.
Now you may think we're done there, but no. Each one of these hemispheres is split up into four parts: frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital. Each lobe controls different functions.
As the largest lobe of your brain, the frontal lobe is located at the front of your head and controls three main functions: your decision making, like if you wanted to eat an apple or this orange, and choosing to move your body around. It even determines your personality traits. And when you're smelling something like this wonderful orange, your frontal lobe is helping you with that too. It also tells your mouth, tongue, and throat how to form words and speak clearly.
The occipital lobe is in the back part of the brain. Its main function is vision and understanding the things you see. Things like determining color, figuring out distance and depth, or even facial recognition. Like, look, there's Janelle. Great. Your occipital lobe is also very important for things like reading too.
The temporal lobe runs along the sides of your brain. This part has a lot more to do with sounds and how your brain interprets it. It helps you remember verbal things in the short term, like when your teacher tells you what the homework is and you have to remember to write it down for later. It helps you to understand people when they're talking to you, as well as understanding the language and emotions of those speaking.
I know that this is an orange. How do I know that? My parietal lobe. This lobe helps me make sense of the world by recognizing sensations like touch, temperature, and pain, and processing other information that my brain gets. It lets me understand how or close objects are to my body. Another function this lobe is in charge of is making you aware of where all of your limbs are.
Okay, so let's see what I remember, Gabby. We have three main parts to our brain: the brainstem at the bottom of your brain, the cerebellum at the back, and the cerebrum filling up the rest. The brainstem connects our brain to the spine. Right, Gabby?
That's right, just like a flower stem. And then what does your cerebellum do?
It helps me with things like posture and sends signals to the other parts of my brain, like the cerebrum.
Yes, and this is where it gets good. Your cerebrum's bark, your cerebral cortex, is split into two hemispheres, each with four lobes.
My frontal lobe for big things like decisions, personality, and movement.
Your occipital lobe for vision, your temporal lobe for sound, and more.
And my parietal lobe to make sense of it all.
Wow, that's a lot. And to think, there's still so much more to know.
That's right, Gabby. We only are just getting started. So stay curious and stay tuned for another episode of the Atlas of Knowledge.
Thumbs up.
Yay.